Review of Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wade Take the Mic.
Welcome to Review of Raw. I am John Pollock, joined by Wei Ting.
Man, how's your voice?
Not great.
Oh,
it's
man.
not great, Wei. I'm really going to have to rely on you to get through this one.
Well, that's it for the show, everybody. I think we're done.
My throat is a mess, and I have done nothing but talk all day long. Primarily with you, which is usually always a treat. But
Which is a chore, I mean, because you're going to have to do like 90% of the talking at least when you're talking with me.
Well, we're going to get through Raw. I'm going to, hopefully my voice will preserve throughout the next hour or so. But we will see how things go. Raw kicked off on Monday Night Way, the final Raw before Extreme Rules from Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yes.
Very historic building here at the Greensboro Coliseum.
Oh, how come?
Housed the very first Starrcade event, was the home of Starrcade for so many years. I mean, this was Flair territory, and I thought it was very smart the way they put the women and Ric Flair in that final segment.
That is true.
We will get to that. To kick off the show, by the way, Lillian Garcia was back on Raw, and amidst all the confusion, she is back, and she was on Raw. AJ Styles started off the show, coming out and stated that he is sick of being called a liar. He has been called a liar at restaurants, airports, and on social media. The first two, I would heavily doubt anyone has come up to AJ.
I would actually doubt the third as well, because he went on to show some of these tweets, and none of them were really calling him a liar. They were just all talking about how cool the Bullet Club and AJ Styles were being together.
Maybe this tells you my interest level, but I did go and search AJ Styles liar on Twitter to see. There were probably 5. And it was all stemming from a promo on SmackDown. The majority of them were, if you had told me last year AJ Styles would be wrestling for the title, I would call you a liar. And it was all stuff like that.
They're trying so hard to try to paint AJ as the heel. But I think trying to show these tweets in support of that aim was ridiculous, because none of these tweets supported what AJ was actually trying to say in the promo.
AJ says that he has headlined the Tokyo Dome in front of 60,000 people, which is a bit of a stretch. He is technically
he is a liar then.
He is a liar because he's never technically headlined a Dome show, nor were there 60,000 either of the years that he was there. So in that fact, he was a liar.
Okay.
And says he has headlined all over the world. Roman Reigns comes out and says that none of his other titles and other stuff matters until he wins the championship, which was the line I think he should have used right from the start of this program, is that you have never won the title. I like this. And then the fans start chanting for Seth Rollins. And Reigns just shut it down, saying, you're not getting Rollins. You've got Roman Reigns and AJ Styles in the main event. And he calls Styles a phenomenal liar.
No.
He is exceptional at lying.
I thought it was noteworthy that he mentioned the Rollins chants by saying Seth Rollins' name. To me, it seemed like it was a subtle way of telling the audience that they can expect Rollins sometime soon.
Well, he's going to be back, I would imagine, fairly soon. I mean, he was said on the conference call that he's coming back shortly, and I mean, I think everyone's expecting him at this point. Styles mocks his catchphrase by ending it by saying, you're the guy I'm going to beat this Sunday. And Reigns says that this one is the big fight, and says the bloodline is stronger than the club, which I don't know if that was a renaming of the family to the bloodline. They might have some copyright issues with the Netflix program of the same name.
Sure, isn't there a family thing? Can you copyright the family?
The family, maybe.
Nor the club. You definitely can't copyright the club.
The club, yes. Yeah, that's like it's like breaking into a car and just stealing intellectual property. Yeah. Styles then threatens to hit Roman Reigns with a chair shot to the head on Sunday. That's heat in 2016.
Oh, definitely.
I will give you a concussion.
I will make you donate your brain to the Chris Nowinski.
I will inflict you with CTE down the road.
Oh, stop. Yeah.
This is a blood feud, right?
The first ever CTE match.
Yes.
Got it. I think AJ's been sounding very comfortable and confident on the mic in this
I thought both sounded good here.
Yes. And, they're trying to position him as a more blatant heel over the past several weeks by having him come out and trying to complain about the fan base's tweets. he's definitely coming more across like the whiny heel character, and I kind of take issue with that because I just liked it a lot more when they were both baby faces who just hated each other rather than this, very black and white. Oh, I'm a good guy, I'm a bad guy. Especially putting AJ in that bad guy role just completely goes against what the audience wants.
It might be their intention to do that, but I'm really not seeing anyone taking him as that.
Absolutely not.
I think they see him as the way you want them to do. That these two are basically baby faces fighting one another, and I think AJ Styles is certainly going to have the audience on Sunday.
They're still booing Roman Reigns.
Well, they are in pockets, and maybe more than pockets on Sunday. Anderson and Gallows come out. The Usos just appear out of nowhere in the ring, and Styles is sent to the floor as the fans boo this with Reigns and the Usos, the bloodline, the family bloodline, standing tall.
I like the bloodline more than the family, I think.
Well, the families, that just sounds really...
Yeah.
You just picture them all around the dinner table. And,
I think of the mob when I think of the family.
Oh. Well, you and I have different visuals then. The Miz and Maurice are out for commentary, and then Kevin Owens joins commentary, and yes, he asked Maurice a question in French.
Finally, I thought they were going to do everything in French here.
There was a lot of Quebecois represented on our screen during this match.
Mm-hmm.
Sami Zayn took on Cesaro with Miz and Owens on commentary.
Actually, Cesaro speaks French too.
That's true, yeah. So a lot of Francais.
Mm-hmm.
They could have a whole... What a verbal debate that could be.
No, it would be great. Yes.
The Miz says... in trying to put over the Intercontinental title, they just totally made it so meaningless because The Miz talked about being a 5-time Intercontinental champion. Owen says, that's just sad. Miz gets upset at this, saying, don't disrespect me. I've won 14 titles here. Owen says, yeah, I've been here a year. I've won the IC title twice. It's like, what a trivial title that we are fighting over, where maybe Owens will get his 3rd reign in a year this Sunday. I mean, just throwing these numbers out. I mean, a 5-time Intercontinental champion, The Miz. This was very quick. This was hardly even a match, really, because Cesaro went to the floor. Zayn teased a dive, but stayed in the ring. Cesaro sat on the barricade, and Owens was so disgusted at this showmanship that he just said, I don't even care about this match. And he got up and left and attacked The Miz and went to leave with the title. Miz stopped him. All 4 fight in the ring, and the bell is called at 1:39. And Dancing Shano comes out in his North Carolina-inspired sneakers.
Okay.
Blue and white.
Cool.
To a huge reaction. Like, I am not going to downplay. This guy was maybe the most over guy on this show. Mm-hmm. He got massive reactions for multiple appearances on this show. This crowd was going nuts for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes out, and he announces a tag match for later. And he wants to pair Owens with The Miz, and Owens is complaining that The Miz, the champion, is the worst one of the 4. Stephanie then comes out and says the better teams would be Miz and Cesaro against Owens and Zayn. And Shane agrees, and if Owens walks out of this match, he will not get his IC title match for his 3rd reign to go after this Sunday. So our tag match was next. Miz and Cesaro against Owens and Zayn. Owens and Zayn just could not get along. Owens is complaining about Zayn wasting his time in the ring. Zayn got distracted by Maurice and got knocked off the apron to the floor. Owens got the hot tag and hit a big cannonball, with JBL comparing him to Ricky Morton. Then Cesaro came in with the Uppercut Express. Cesaro went for the Cesaro swing to Zayn, but Miz tossed Cesaro to the floor, and then Miz teased the swing. Cesaro came back and stopped him and hit the skull-crushing finale to Miz. Then Cesaro and Owens went to the floor, and Zayn hit the haluva kick and pinned Miz for the win. Owens then attacked Zayn after the match, and he yelled at the referee to raise his arm, saying, I won too. I won too.
I think he's just so entertaining.
This
to
is the
watch.
best guy on the roster.
Oh, he's so great. He's just everything he does. I think he's the complete package. Certainly the MVP of this feud. But, all that said, I've been impressed by all 4 men in this feud, including The Miz, who I think has been a great fit with these 4 and adds some great heel personality with his current gimmick.
Each and every week, it's your chance to win a t-shirt from ProWrestlingTees.com. Simply answer the trivia question and tweet @LawRadio for your chance to win each and every Thursday.
Renee was backstage and interviewed Chris Jericho outside of his locker room and stated that Ambrose was going to speak with him out in the arena, and Jericho expects an apology tonight for destroying his jacket, which he says is more iconic to the WWE than Andre the Giant. It should be in the Smithsonian, and he could have Dean Ambrose arrested tonight, but he's going to give him one last chance to apologize. Then we had a video feature on Apollo Crews, which was brought to us by Golden Corral Buffet. All you can eat.
I think we don't have those in Canada, but
Golden Corral? No, I don't believe so.
They have those in Hong Kong, so I kind of grew up with them. They're nice.
Yep. It was just funny, I thought, that we had the all you can eat. I mean, that gives you an idea of you just are given so much of something that you just can't take anymore. And here's Apollo Crews, who we never even see anymore. The Shining Stars, after those award-winning vignettes, finally made their return. They came out with microphones and their some hibiscus.
Yeah.
And calls the ring their island. And every time they wrestle, the ring turns into Puerto Rico. And they refer to the guys in the ring as tourists. Now, these job guys they were given the names of Scott Jackson and Brian Kennedy. But if you are an NXT viewer, you will know these two as John Schuyler and Corey Hollis. And if you don't watch NXT, you would know them from the names on their trunks, which read Schuyler and CH. So some bad quality control here, I felt. But this was a showcase for the Shining Stars to hit a bunch of their offensive maneuvers. We had Epico with a series of Germans and then a brainbuster, then a double underhook into a lung blower, and then bringing out the chocolate slide. Maybe that's officially been given to them from Mark Henry, who's on the verge of retirement. And then they hit their finish, the Shining Star, which is the old total elimination that Perry Saturn and John Cronus would do, and pinned Hollis at 134. And Michael Cole, in assessing the damage that was inflicted to Brian Kennedy, stated that Mr. Kennedy is seeing stars. So we got.
You think that was a little inside?
Maybe we got a Mr. Kennedy reference.
Yeah. I feel like these two either developed or were given a very loosely and perhaps poorly thought out concept for a gimmick, and this is kind of their way of trying to make it work. I mean, when you look at these vignettes and you have no idea what these two are about. They just love Puerto Rico. But now they're trying to use that love of Puerto Rico as sort of like a weird, like psychotic metaphor for, in-ring competition. And I mean, I'm a bit more optimistic than I was in previous weeks after seeing it. And I think with most teams, like you remember the New Day, those vignettes told you just about as much. Didn't tell you anything. Even when the first several months that they were on the roster, they were nothing. So I think it'll take some strong booking and some good promos, and they just probably need to find some way to connect with the crowd before.
Their strength is in the ring. They're very good. It's just their characters have really never done anything for them. We'll see. I mean, it just to me reads like very much a mid-card act, but we'll see what they do with them. They plugged John Cena's return coming up in 2 weeks, and then Dean Ambrose is out. The crowd is chanting for him. This was a very hot crowd, I thought, in Greensboro. All night long, they were getting into things. He says he felt like he was in jail or in an asylum last week when Chris Jericho placed him in a straitjacket on SmackDown. And he calls out Jericho, who comes out. He wants an apology from Dean. He says he may be a multimillionaire, but $15,000 is still a lot of money, and he wants that back from Ambrose. Ambrose wants a match at Extreme Rules. Jericho says, quote, "I will take $15,000 out of your ass."
I hope they're polymer.
Do you think you could get across the border carrying that? That's a lot of coin. Jericho says that he too is a lunatic. No one in this company is crazier than him. He's faced everyone the WWE has thrown at him and beat them all, and he will punish Dean with a smile on his face and not a tear in his eye. And then Ambrose says, "I have a gift too." And he looks up, and we got like a mixture of like the theme from Psycho and Halloween combined with this bizarre steel cage structure coming down with weapons like it was a Lethal Lockdown.
Yeah.
With every goofy weapon that you would imagine in Lethal Lockdown, but these were even more goofy. These included a restored potted plant, a mop, a straitjacket, and Dean had to cut this whole promo setting up an Asylum match, which he calls a first ever if you eliminate Scott Steiner from history, who this used to be his gimmick match in WCW.
Like weapons on top
in
of
2000.
The cage?
Well, it was called the Asylum match.
Oh, okay.
And he had to cut this whole promo with this wacky music over top of him, and I was done at this point. It's like these guys have tried their hardest to have a quality feud, and it's all of this bullshit that gets thrown into this. And this feud is just, it's so hard to take any of this seriously, and it's going to end with a bloody mop and a potted plant being used.
There's a lot of comedy here, and I in the feud, and I think the version of Dean Ambrose that we've been seeing this entire time is very much it's a PG version of Dean Ambrose. It's a version of Dean Ambrose for children. You know, he has the psychotic thing, the lunatic thing, and he's basically playing a caricature of what that stereotype might feel like. And, you know,
imagine if this is how they booked Mankind when he came in. He's just that goofy guy that
he ultimately became a goofy guy, but
that was after he was incredibly over and his body could no longer go through what had gotten him over.
Yeah, it was very different, but you know, I mean the whole stuff with the plant and the jacket. If you ask a certain section of the audience, I think it might connect with a certain type. I mean, it did kind of hit in social media, all the stuff with the plants. Maybe not necessarily for you and I, especially for you and I who've seen Dean Ambrose in a much more serious role, and knowing what type of character he can actually play. To see him kind of in this watered down PG corny version of Dean Ambrose is a little disheartening. But I mean, I think the match will be interesting, and expect some comedy spots.
Catch all of our podcasts daily up at FightNetwork.com. You can also subscribe to live audio wrestling on iTunes and listen through the free Stitcher app.
Luchadors are not wrestlers. They're warriors. They're descendants of a race that has marched through the centuries and stood up to conquerors. They come to Mexico from all over the world, lured by the prospect of becoming Aztecs.
Dana Brooke is walking backstage and laughs at these production guys and then makes fun of this one dork for his appearance and walks off. This was every high school scene you've seen in every movie. Becky Lynch took on Dana Brooke. They gave the update that Emma suffered a back injury at one of the live events over the weekend, is going to need surgery for a bulging disc. So poor timing considering Dana was just brought up a week ago to be paired with her and will probably be out of action for quite some time.
Really bad timing for her. I mean, Emma seems like somebody who was finally getting, an actual serious push for the first time on the main roster in years, and this is just bad timing.
Becky and Dana, they went 342. Becky knocked her down and was mocking her poses. Becky came off the apron and landed on the floor. There was a chant for Sasha Banks, and during one of the punches, JBL compared it to Odor punching Jose Bautista. So he got his one reference in. There was a reverse elbow by Becky, and then came back with clotheslines, a running forearm, the Beck-Sploder suplex for a 2 count, and then Brooke put her on her shoulders and blocked the sunset flip by Becky, holding down her legs for the pin at 342. I thought Dana was a little clumsy in certain spots, but, she is relatively, she's less than 2 years into this.
Yeah.
So it's a big spot for her, especially if she's going to be now in a singles position. I think she would have much more benefited from being in the tag with Emma, but it looks like she's either going to be in a singles position here or paired with someone new.
I think the push to put her in a singles, push her as a single star now is the right move. What do? You put her back to NXT, now that Emma's gone? No, I think you could try her as a single star. And I think certainly she's not in-ring on the level of a Sasha, Becky, Paige, or Charlotte, but she clearly has potential. And if you've seen her on what is it?
Breaking Ground.
Breaking Ground. She seems to have a great attitude that they seem to love. So she's a better worker than the last generation of the Total Divas, most of the Total Divas, for instance. So she's got potential.
They re-aired the Darren Young, Bob Backlund smartphone spot from last week, and Shane McMahon loved this. He was just like, yeah, make Darren Young great again. And Stephanie walks in, and Shane talks about how they need to have a better office. And Stephanie says she would have preferred if he had run the Asylum match idea by her earlier. And then Shane brings up, well, how about the tag match you changed on the fly like that? And Stephanie being very passive-aggressive, saying, the tag match I made better. And then the Dudley boys walk in and want to remind them of what two guys from the Attitude Era can do in the new era, and ask about facing some little guys from North Carolina, which had to be a Hardy Boys dig. And instead, they are offered a singles match against Big Cass, with the Dudleys picking which one will face him. They leave, and then Shane just turns to Stephanie and goes, how you doing? And Stephanie says, there's something wrong with you, and walks off.
Yeah, I wish they would just make out already.
You can't just give that away.
Do brothers and sisters talk this way? I've never had a sister. Do you have a sister, right? Do you talk like this with your sister?
No, siblings don't talk like this to one another.
So weird.
This is the Stephanie Shane dynamic for the summer. It's the summer fling.
Yeah.
They show a video. Someone put together a video of all the Goldust and R-Truth segments leading up to tonight's big first ever. Actually, is this the first time they've teamed up?
No, I don't know.
They might have teamed in some time during this huge multiple chapters of this feud. Mm-hmm. R-Truth and Goldust took on Tyler Breeze and Fandango, now known as BREEZANGO. Mm-hmm. Rolls off the tongue. There was a Golden Truth chant. The match was very quick. It ended with R-Truth going to give a side kick, and Fandango, Tyler Breeze ducked, and R-Truth took out Goldust, and then Breeze pinned Goldust in 1:56, and it looked like Breeze cut himself on the side of his head. He was bleeding from the side of his head after, and Goldust walked out on R-Truth, and then backstage, Truth is apologizing, says they have to work out the kinks, they have to work out their feng shui and chakra.
Yeah.
And says everyone wants this team, and he's able to convince Goldust to give this team a shot, as Breeze and Fandango mock them, calling them the Golden Girls. And Truth and Goldust hug.
Mm-hmm. I like the fact that they had these two lose their debut match. It keeps the tension in their storyline going. And I also like Breeze and Fandango together. I think they're two similar characters that, are basically the same character, and they're both equally lost on the roster. So they have some potential as a tag team. Whether or not they'll actually have them do anything besides job, maybe, I don't know. But
the bottom of the card tag division is really at its peak.
Oh my God, the shining
We've got
stars.
3 strong teams now.
Yeah. But I did enjoy what they did with these two teams this week.
You can check out The Law's YouTube channel at youtube.com/liveaudiowrestling. Subscribe for all of your free videos, including Ask Away, interviews, and much more.
There is a large object in the ring under a sheet as the New Day comes out. There was no way in a million years you would have predicted what this segment would turn into. They get into the ring and they unveil the New DeLorean time machine, which looks like something I made in my grade 9 science class. I mean, this was a giant refrigerator box with crap taped and glued onto it, including a keyboard. It looked very lame. So
and that was the point.
It was supposed to not be good. Maybe this whole segment was not supposed to be good. I don't know. So the whole point is that they are going to go back to the bygone era where the vaudevillains are from. They're going to confront them. So they enter, and then what would the technical term for this production element be called, Way, what they did with the screen?
I don't know, this warp effect.
Yes, you got this warp effect.
Yeah.
Music was going off. And then Kofi Kingston's old theme music hit, and he came out playing his 2008 character as a Jamaican. Mm-hmm. I thought that part was amusing. Yeah. I thought that part was funny. Then it continued. They got back in. They continued to go back in time. And then the screen goes black and white. To the viewer at home, they could see that. To the audience, they had no clue what was going on. All they saw was these guys come out with these crappy mustaches taped onto them, pretending that they were now in the 1800s. Their bootios were now a black and white box called derriere squares, and instead of a smartphone, they had the old-fashioned phone that you put up to your ear and speak into. This crowd was instantly dead. They didn't get any of this. I don't blame them. This bombed so big.
It bombed live. I thought on TV it was kind of cute. And I thought it was even an improvement from your typical New Day promo that I've been kind of getting tired of. But absolutely live, I don't think this crowd really knew how to react to it. In fact, they probably just thought it was lame.
Well, the Vaudevillains jumped them. They jumped them so hard they knocked them back into 2016 because we went back into color. And we were brought back to present. Mm-hmm. And they hit a series of double-team maneuvers, including a vertical suplex into a powerbomb on Kingston. They destroyed the time machine and then hit a double-team slam to Woods. Lots of boos, at least, for the Vaudevillains, and doing at least a physical angle. But I thought prior to this was just awful.
Well, it wasn't supposed to be,
I hate that
great.
excuse. It was supposed to be bad. Then why do it?
Because that's their gimmick. They're trying to do a low.
Their gimmick is to do awful entertainment?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
The New Day?
Yeah.
The New Day are supposed to be unentertaining.
No, they're entertaining is, subjective, but they're supposed to be amusing. And I thought this was amusing. Again, it's subjective. They're poking fun at themselves. And if you're complaining that the box looked lame, that was the whole point.
I'm not. The box was the least of the problems.
If you're complaining that the effects,
it was just a bad idea. I don't think what they attempted that this would get over.
If you're complaining that the effects look lame, that was part of the idea too. It's supposed to look cheesy.
There was no, to me, big payoff to any of this. It was just, I think. Well, the payoff was the attack, and you got some heat on the Vaudevillains. I will give this segment that. They did achieve that by the end. The Usos took on Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows next in a tag match. They got plenty of time here. AJ and Reigns were in the respective corners of the club and the bloodline. Anderson and Gallows are attacking Jey in their corner. Eventually makes the tag to Jimmy, who hits the whisper in the wind to Gallows, and then is distracted by AJ and gets decked by Gallows on the floor. Then they get the advantage on Jimmy for a long time. Eventually, Jimmy is able to make the hot tag. Jey is in, hits a high cross for a near fall on Anderson. They went through a series of near falls. There was a spine buster delivered by Carl Anderson, which JBL compared him to his non-bloodline member, Arn. And then Carl hit what was described as a rocket kick and then got sent into a super kick. Gallows made the save. There was a super kick to Gallows, a double super kick to Anderson, and then Jey hit a splash off the top, pinning Carl Anderson. Clean finish, and the Usos won. I thought a very good tag match.
Very hot match.
Yes, crowd certainly helped this match quite a lot. Mm-hmm. Maybe surprising that they did such a clean finish. And I imagine these four, their role is they'll have some involvement in the main event because they're not announced for matches.
They said that Reigns said that the Usos will be in his corner at the main event. So
that is their positioning. Yeah. Then Reigns and Styles had a stare down, and Gallows attacked Reigns from behind. The Usos got involved. They fought on the floor, and Styles seized the chair with Reigns laying down. The crowd is chanting yes. And then Reigns stops him with a strike, and they boo this. Reigns uses the chair on Styles' back and then hits Superman punches to Gallows and Anderson. And then Styles recovers using the chair to the gut of Reigns, hits him in the back multiple times, and then ends it with the Styles clash onto the chair. Mm-hmm. I thought maybe they would save this for Sunday, but I really like this post-match. Yep. I really enjoyed this feud overall with Reigns and Styles. I think this is as good a post-WrestleMania program as you could ask for Roman Reigns, where they have gotten 2 good pay-per-views out of it, and they may even stretch this to a 3rd.
Yeah, and I wouldn't complain because I've really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the finish here. I thought this was much more balanced in showing, babyface and heel dynamics with the two of them. I absolutely love that this feud was able to make a chair shot a big deal again.
That's a great point.
John, I mean, you and I are reviewing an ECW Living Dangerously 1999 show for Review Away this week, and I mean, at that time, chair shots were basically treated like snapmares. They were basically completely throwaway, no reaction to them really. And now it's great to see that this feud has managed to use great storytelling to limit the use of a gimmick like a chair shot. And when they finally do start using the chairs like we saw tonight,
it's been weeks that they've built that chair shot.
The reactions were huge.
Maybe to subdue Roman Reigns, AJ will have to tape him to a table, and then he can deliver a phenomenal balcony dive at Extreme Rules.
Mm-hmm. Nobody will get that right now.
They will on Wednesday. This Wednesday on Review Away, Wei Ting and I will be reviewing ECW Living Dangerously from 1999, headlined by Sabu taking on Taz, plus Jerry Lynn versus Rob Van Dam, and Mustafa versus New Jack.
The hardest hits. The most intense action. The best wrestling on the planet. Ring of Honor Wrestling. Creating excellence every week.
Big Cass comes out, and he has a problem with the Dudley boys. He calls Devon the Steve Urkel of the locker room, and then does a Steve Urkel impression. This is a television show, that ended in 1998.
So what? So the Dudleys were around at about that time.
Well, we then moved on to Bubba's stuttering gimmick, which ended in 1999.
Okay, yes.
And then called him a Fred Flintstone-looking goon.
When did that show end?
I don't know, but his next reference was to the Stone Age, which is when it felt like
what
that
do you
show
want?
ended.
Like all references to like Iggy Azalea or like, I don't know, whoever else is hip right now?
Well,
Stephen Curry?
Sure.
Not all references have to be current, There are like people who get it, like you and I.
Well, yeah, I guess there's people out there that know Steve Urkel, whatever. And that prompts the Dudleys to come out, and it's Devon Dudley that is granted the match. Bubba takes out a table, and this distracts Cass as Devon attacks him from behind, and Cass just runs at Devon, and he ends up taking Bubba off the apron with a big boot and then hits Devon with the East River Crossing and pins him in a minute.
Yeah, this was a very quick match.
So they are just having Cass run through guys at this point and keeping him very limited in the ring. I mean, last week we didn't even get the match with Jericho. This week, very, very short time with Cass, who they're very high on, but that has no place on the pay-per-view as of now.
No.
Maybe they'll do this again on Sunday.
They could. I could see him obviously having a match with Bubba Ray next. I mean, I think they're kind of put into a corner where they want to keep the guy on TV, and obviously Vince loves him. But the way they're scripting his lines, they're basically having him do Enzo's lines, and the way he's doing it, it doesn't come across nearly as well as when Enzo does it.
The audience is into him now, but there will be a turning point where Roman Reigns saying these Steven Urkel lines.
Oh my God,
they would have killed him.
That's true. But right now, the audience definitely loves this guy, and pretty much they love it when Enzo did it. But because this guy is a representative of the team, they've decided that they like the guy. But if this was his debut when he said these lines, I think they would have definitely turned on him. It also doesn't really. I have my concerns about Enzo's return, because right now, this guy's being pushed as a singles. When Enzo comes back, I don't really expect him to be much more than a mouthpiece for Big Cass.
What happens if the Dudleys, maybe on SmackDown, find the remnants of the Time Machine and they fix it and put some of the cool serum in it, and then Devon goes in and he comes out as Stefan or Kel, who can now wrestle.
Aye.
And he faces Big Cass on Sunday.
Cool. Okay. That would be great. Yeah.
This Sunday night on The Law, tune in at 11 p.m. Eastern Time for a full rundown of WWE Extreme Rules, as Jason Agnew and Dan Lavransky will have a full recap. Plus, we will chat with Matt Taven from Ring of Honor, Dave Meltzer, and taking your phone calls this Sunday night, 11 Eastern, and listen live at liveaudiowrestling.com.
They showed a video for John Cena and him training and recovering from rotator cuff surgery and building up his return in 2 weeks from now. Kalisto and Alberto Del Rio were next in a non-title match, and Del Rio is beating on Kalisto. He went for a head scissors, and Del Rio threw him into the barricade to go through the commercial break. They show Sin Cara watching backstage, and then Rusev attacks Sin Cara backstage, and Alberto Del Rio forces Kalisto to watch this on the screen. Kalisto then fights back. There's a chant for Lana. Kalisto then runs shoulder first into the post, and Kalisto is draped on the second rope, and Del Rio takes forever to climb up. He gets crotched. There's a Hurricane Run off the top. Rusev brings Sin Cara out, continues beating on him, throws him into the post, and then Del Rio hits a backstabber to Kalisto, and Del Rio pins Kalisto.
What is this? The second week in a row he's been pinned?
Well, last week it was Rusev that lost. So this week,
Rusev lost.
He had to beat both guys clean.
Oh, okay, I guess. Yeah. I thought Kalisto was a bit of a dick, ignoring his friend like that. They showed him. They showed Sin Cara getting beaten up on the Titantron, and they showed Kalisto watching it. I thought the intent was
he was not going to be done in by the distraction finish.
I mean, I thought the intent was to have Kalisto leave the match to save his friend, but they just had
sympathy.
They just had Kalisto continue wrestling the match. They had Rusev drag Sin Cara out and continue beating him, and Rusev was like, "Hey, look, I'm beating up your friend. Hey, watch." And Kalisto just didn't bat an eye. He didn't really care either.
Just so we can recap this, okay? Last week, we had Rusev lose not to the U.S. champion, but to his partner. And this week, Del Rio pins the champion clean. And it's Rusev that's getting the title match on Sunday. What a messed up build this one is.
I think this program has been quite weak. And if you compare it to the IC title match and that feud, I think it's night and day. The IC title feud has been booked far better than this.
Well, as of now, this U.S. title match is on the main show, but it could very well just be a second match on the kickoff show, which it would join Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin. The stakes are real this time because now it's a no DQ match. Has there been any infraction that is required a DQ for these two? No. Baron beat him clean last week, but we're going to do it again with no rules. Wonderful.
Is that pre-show or?
Pre-show.
Okay.
Yes, that's not the main show.
Okay, so I won't be watching.
Final segment. Shane and Stephanie are in the ring dancing to Shane's theme as we are getting ready for the contract signing for the women's title match. And the crowd is once again chanting for Shane, and Stephanie, in a true nerd out moment, tried to start a Steffi Mac chant.
Yeah.
Not good. Ric Flair comes out as Stephanie is about to introduce Charlotte, and it's Rick who introduces his daughter, and Cole goes over Flair's history in Mid-Atlantic, in the Carolinas, here in this building in Greensboro, and Charlotte thanks her dad for the intro, and this is where we got the sign of the night, as Ric Flair was in the ring, and in the background, a fan who had a sign that read, "Conceived at Starrcade 86."
At Starrcade?
At Starrcade 86.
In the arena?
In the upper bowl.
Wow.
Probably.
Okay, cool.
So that was a great sign.
Yeah.
Natalya comes out and asks what happened to Charlotte when she had integrity, and brings up their NXT match, and that Charlotte was able to beat her without her creepy father, who actually was there at ringside during that NXT match, but did not get involved. Charlotte says that these are her people, and they cheer for her no matter what, and brags about how she could punch all of these people's best friends in the face, and they would all worship her. And she is their goddess. They cheer me because my last name is Flair, and you're just natty. And tells Rick to stop wooing in the ring, because this is her ring. And then they go to sign the contract, and they have added another stipulation that if Rick walks down to the ring Charlotte will forfeit the title. Why Charlotte would want this to happen after last week, she lost because Rick did that exact same thing coming down to the ring. I don't know why she was so tied to this. And they have security come down to remove Rick, and they reluctantly sign the contract. Rick then calls Stephanie the worst businesswoman and threatens Shane and is getting ready to fight. Shane doesn't want to have an altercation with Rick, but Stephanie is not going to be so polite with Rick and slaps the hell out of Rick. This was a vintage Stephanie McMahon slap, and Rick took a bump off the slap in Greensboro. Sacrilege to some fans. And then Charlotte goes after Stephanie, and Natalya stops her, applies the sharpshooter, and Charlotte is furiously tapping out, and Natalya poses with the title to end the show. This got the main event slot on the show.
Yeah.
Will it on Sunday?
No. I mean, I think they made a real statement by putting these two on last. But at the same time, last week, though, we kind of ended with a secondary program in Dean Ambrose versus Jericho as well. So maybe the main event slot doesn't...
In a weird way, it's positioned those matches all having their weeks where they've been the most important thing on the show.
Does it mean the same thing now, though? You know, with whatever ratings patterns are, does the main event slot?
I think there's still a message that people take as the main event slot. I think there's a certain... I think there's an emphasis placed on what closes the show. What is that show closing scene?
Yeah. Well, certainly. I mean, I think it's only since the Charlotte and the Divas Revolution. Since they've arrived, have they become comfortable putting these girls on last? So it certainly is a statement. I think Charlotte's grown a lot in the time that she's been on the roster, and especially in her heel run, able to show a lot more comfort and confidence on the microphone. She clearly still has some room to improve, but I think she's been doing great so far. And Rick with her has been awesome.
Yeah, and I think certainly on Sunday you get the sense this is the end of the feud, and they're going to get their chance to have their big blow-off match. There's not going to be any interference, and I think they're going to have a fantastic match. They'll probably get 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, I hope so.
So it should be a great match on Sunday. Looking at the card on Sunday, we've got Roman Reigns and AJ Styles in the main event. Do we see a title change, Mr. Ting?
No, I don't think so.
I think you have to do a finish, though, for this. Just because it's a Extreme Rules match coming off of what they did last month. It's kind of hard to do another kind of...
I mean, you have. I don't necessarily see a DQ or anything like that. I think that would be a little much. At the same time, I mean, there's sort of the wild card in a Seth Rollins return and John Cena not John Cena, but a Randy Orton return. Or are any of those possibilities?
I don't think Randy Orton. Seth Rollins will probably be back. Who knows when? Probably, I would guess within a month. I mean, it looks like. He's making a rapid recovery at this point, so he should be back before the summer. Then we have, as we mentioned, Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho in the Asylum match. The Miz, Kevin Owens, CESARO, and Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title. Any idea who you feel comes out of that match with the title?
I could really see any of those guys. I feel like, though, putting it on Zayn at this point is a little bit unexpected, and I mean, I don't want to say a waste, but it would sort of be a waste because he hasn't really been the focal point of this feud at all. So I'd either keep it on The Miz or I would give it to Kevin Owens.
Then we have Kalisto against Rusev for the United States title, Charlotte and Natalya for the women's title, The New Day against the Vaudevillains for the tag team titles, and then the big one, no DQ, Baron Corbin taking on Dolph Ziggler.
Oh, my.
So Dolph Ziggler won at the last kickoff show. Can he make it 2 in a row and stretch this to another pre-show? They've replaced Ryback, I guess, as the pre-show stoppers. Mm-hmm. So there you go. That is Extreme Rules coming up on Sunday. And, of course, we will have a full review of Extreme Rules Sunday night on the Law at 11 Eastern time. But before then, we have a big review coming up on Wednesday. You mentioned it earlier. What are we reviewing?
ECW Living Dangerously 1999. And this is a show that features Sabu versus Taz in a title unification bout for the ECW title and the FTW world title.
Yes.
What does FTW stand for?
FCW?
No, FTW.
Oh, FTW.
Yeah.
We're not allowed on this show to say what it stands for.
Okay.
forget this world.
You could on that show, and you could say a lot worse. A bunch of different F words on that show.
They were selective in their censoring of this show. So that is coming up on Wednesday, a full review of Living Dangerously 1999, which is an interesting show, to say the least. So that's coming up Wednesday on the show.
A pre-CTE era. CTE awareness era. There's plenty of CTE, I guess.
Yes. Thursday, we'll have What's Next up on the site. And then Friday, a new Bauer and Pollock, as well as the MMA report. And then, as we mentioned, Sunday on the Law, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. You can listen on TSN 1050 Toronto, TSN 1410 Vancouver, and on the website. And also, this Sunday on the Law, we're going to be giving away some WWE DVDs. We're going to be giving away a copy for Title Bout Trivia of the new Nation's Pride DVD. It's the WWE's release of the best Canadian matches in their history. As well, you have a chance to win a copy of WrestleMania 32 on DVD. I think it's an 18-disc set for the 6.5-hour show.
Wow.
I think that's probably the amount of time you need to process WrestleMania 32. I wonder if there's extras on that.
I'm sure there are extras.
I thought I saw everything that night at WrestleMania. We'll see what all they cram onto that DVD. But you can win both of those during Title Bout Trivia Sunday night. And we're also going to be doing a giveaway of those same DVDs on the website over the next week or so. So you can keep tuned to that. That is going to wrap it up for us. You can follow him at Way0937 on both Twitter and Instagram. He always likes to hear from people. So just say hello. And we will be back with Review of Raw next week, and you can tune in every Tuesday, 11 a.m., 7 p.m. Eastern Time here on Fight Network.